Hello, everyone. My name is Murphy Daly, and I'm an AV veteran and author. You are joining us. You can hear us and you can see us here at the AV Life.
Hey everyone, James King here, and you are watching and listening to the AV Life.
And I'm your host, Tim Van Wert at the AV Life Pod. And you are watching and listening to the AV Life. All right, folks, we're back. We had a lot of fun last week with the firing range. So if you've missed out on that, go back and go listen to us argue. And well, actually, I don't think we really argued, James, right? We kind of agreed that everything was just nuts that we talked about last week.
Yeah, that was a good episode. We're all pretty much in the same agreement. But yeah, it was a good one.
So and we had BC Hatchett, the co-founder of HETMA, on with us, and also from Vanderbilt. And
Sadly, I missed it.
Yes, you missed it. Yes, Murphy, you would have had a lot of fun with us talking about cilantro ice cream and celebrity sausage. So, and not in the sexual way.
I'm so glad you clarified. Cilantro ice cream.
Yes.
Well, you do know, perhaps you don't. Here in California, in Northern California, on the outskirts of Silicon Valley, there's a little town of Gilroy, which is the garlic capital of the world. Have you heard of this?
No, I have not. Please educate me.
They have a garlic festival. And it's so much fun. It's a lovely place. My uncle used to live there, and has big spready oak trees, and they have all it's just like towards the Central Valley, right? They have all the garlics there, so that like you have a festival with everything garlic possible and crafty bits, but you always, when you go, they sell garlic ice cream.
Ooh.
Yes. Yeah. So everybody gets a little tiny, like it's a sample scoop. It's not a full serving, as it were. It's sort of a sample of soft serve in a tiny cone, and there you go. Lick it and go, can you finish it, or do you throw it away with everybody else?
Well, at least they give you the opportunity to try it, right. instead of saying, here, buy the large size, because that's all we have. It's like,
and they know what they got. So I'm just saying, maybe they need an upgrade from garlic in one stand, and over there you could get the cilantro, and maybe they really two great tastes meant to be together.
That is, yeah, that could be, it could be something. So, I mean, I'm assuming then you've had this garlic ice cream.
Yeah, I finished it. What was small enough.
What was your take?
It was garlic and vanilla, because it's vanilla ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'm not going to go in the same way that, if you have to bob for apples on Halloween.
Yeah.
You have to eat the garlic ice cream when you go to the garlic festival, and everybody says, did you try it? And you go, yes. Oh, did you finish it? And I finished it.
So it's more for the social acceptance piece than
something to talk about,
Yeah, I understand. Okay. All right. Well, then, yes.
A couple little crafty things I bought from there. I think a bracelet and stuff. So
see, those are the fun things. Yeah, those are the fun things to come back with, and the story of eating the garlic ice cream, of course. Yeah, but yeah. So cool. All right. Well, yeah. So, Murphy missed out on our discussions on that last week. And if you missed out on it last week, please go back and see it on the website and go take a look at higheredav.com. And we should be still on the front page. We have a new layout and a new design. So please check it out. It's a little different than what you were used to on the last iteration, but you just keep an eye out for the AV Life, and we are there. And you can catch all of our episodes there and all on your favorite podcast services, and also on YouTube. So go like and subscribe this video if you're watching us, or go over to YouTube and do that. I'm just gonna plug it because I'm not here to be interrupted by Joe Way. So Joe Way's not here to interrupt me. I mean, that's what I meant. It's been a long day.
Oh yeah, very long day.
Yeah. Yeah, we were just talking about that before we started recording that, it feels like we're all kind of like, yeah, like we're at that point of I don't know if it's like end of winter type thing. Like we're getting close to spring. Like today was a little cooler here in Jersey, but we had like 55 degrees yesterday, which was kind of nice. Yeah, I know. At beginning of March and it was 55. I know you Southern California folk,
Actually, we just had a mini heat wave. And yesterday in Anaheim, Orange County, which is closer to your way, was the hottest place in the country. Was it yesterday or the day before? So it was like 85.
Wow.
I know. And it's going to cool off by the end of the week and rain and get into the 50s. So, but you have expectations for what your winter is. You're expecting
Exactly.
cold. So 50 is very warm.
Yes, it is. So yeah, March is always a weird month for us in Jersey because there are times where we'll get that, but then also Facebook reminded me that I think yesterday, like 3 years ago, we got snow. Like we were out playing in the snow with my son. It's like,
well, you gotta understand, Jersey doesn't do seasons like the 4 seasons. You have winter, you have fake summer, winter number 2, then you have spring maybe, and then winter number 3. Like,
yeah,
we don't do the normal 4 seasons.
No, the only 4 seasons that came from New Jersey are the ones that sing with Frankie Valli. So
good stuff.
I had Jersey Boys on the mind for some reason, so that just popped into my head. I was like, oh, Frankie Valli. I was like, yeah, let's go with that one. So, all right. So, this is going to be a little bit different than not different, but a little bit more of a serious conversation this week, compared to last week with our crazy firing range. As you're probably, yeah, a lot's happened in the last week. Yes. If I don't know if you've been living under a rock, but if you don't know about what's been happening over in the Ukraine, go and find, your favorite news outlet and go look it up. It's an unfortunate situation as to what's happening over there. I just pray that no one gets hurt. Like, I'm not a fan of like violence to that level. I just want people to be safe and to have a peaceful resolution to this. And I hope and pray that this is settled quickly.
Yes, let it be so.
Yes. And but we're going to talk about the security risks that are now involved because of what's been happening and the uptick in about that. But that's coming up a little bit later. But first, since we missed out on it last week, we are glad to bring back the PM Minute with Murphy. Go ahead, Murphy, take it away.
All right. This I've definitely had this experience. When I went my first AVPM job, some of the people that were like training me, they were full of bravado. And like, yeah, I gotta tell these people, oh yeah. And that particular office used a lot of subcontractors to do the installation. So, they had certain teams come in and do the work for doing the installation. And they'd say, yeah, that contractor, I didn't like how he was treating me, so I threw him off the job. I'm like, wow, just totally threw the guy off. All right, fine. It's like, am I expected? So I'm like, am I expected to stomp around and throw people off jobs? I thought I don't know if I'm going to want to do that. However, I did at one time have to throw a guy off the job because he wasn't doing the job. He was good at his job, but he was being too picky and didn't like the design that the customer had hired us to do. And so he's like, I'm going to do it differently. I'm like, well, you kind of can't because this is the budget and this is what we signed and this is what we're going to do. He's like, no, it has to be different. And then he wouldn't do it at all. So I'm like, I just throw him off the job, but he threw himself off first. I called his management and like, you have to get me somebody else. You're contracted to do this. Get this done. And they're like, okay, we're very sorry. And they got me somebody else and it worked out fine. But the point is, there's a time when you have to do that for someone who's actually failing and doing poorly. And other times I have had to recognize when somebody is failing at what they do. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking. The PM minute is about throwing people off when they need to be thrown off. This one is about forgiveness, actually. There are a set of people that I can work with. Sometimes they're subcontractors, and sometimes they're people that, are in the company that I'm working with. And they might have totally screwed up. But I got to keep working with them. They're still around. It's not up to me to remove them from the company. If something, I can certainly let their management know. But the point is, these people are around. And most of the time, I have to continue to work with them and continue to find a way to do that. So finding a forgiveness, not to say, shucks, that last time when it was a total foobar, that must have been a fluke. No, remediate, protect, make boundaries, double check the things that I now know I need to double check. But these are resources that I'm going to probably need to rely on. So finding a way to forgive and keep working with these people. Because maybe in the broader world, a little forgiveness, working together could be useful.
That, yes, from your mouth, Murphy, that's, yeah, I mean, that's so true. I guess you could also, that old adage of, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me type thing. Like,
yeah.
I mean, are we looking, I mean, are you, so Murphy, when is the time then? Like, if you can only forgive so many times, I feel like, I mean, we're talking like I mean, obviously there's no 3 strikes you're out type thing, I'm in baseball mode now, even though we may not get baseball, but
well, here's the thing. Like, I had somebody that I never wanted to work with again. This guy actually lied to me. He was on site and he said, no, there's no way to get this done. We cannot do this. We absolutely cannot do it. I'm like, okay. So I'm making apologies to the customer and saying, okay, this is what's going to happen. And I took his word for it. And then the customer walks into the room and the guy is doing the thing that he told me he couldn't do right then. I'm like, what are you trying to do to me, buddy? So I'm like, I'm never going to use this person again on a job. And so I didn't. And he kind of knew that he had screwed up. And I didn't want to use him again. This is not, he had done a couple things. This is not the only thing. So I'm like, yep, he's never going to be hired again. However, there was a time when I had an urgent right now had to happen and nobody else is available. So I'm like, I got to call this guy. He's the only one. And I had to use him. He was in the roster. There's nobody else that could do it. I knew he could do it. And I knew I had to remediate like everything. Totally call like, this is exactly what you need to do. I will not pay you with these things not being in place. You're not going to get paid if you don't give me photos, if you don't do it by this time, and specify it out. What I call the installation work plan. And I called a lot. How's it going? What are we doing? Show me photos of what you're doing. It was a lot of work to use that guy, but I could not do what he did, what his crew did. And so I had to do it. So, and it was fine. It worked out, but having a toolkit or a cabinet of supplies, it's a metaphor, right? What can what's in my toolkit? I got to have something right now. And so that was, that's what I had to do. So that's why I'm like, yeah, sometimes you totally throw people out if they're completely useless.
But sometimes you have to forgive to get through a project or in a pinch.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I understand.
That was my
well, yeah. And I will say that there are certain integrators that we have worked with over the years and they don't get the phone calls as much as other ones do. because of things like that. But they're still there. It's like, yeah, you got a rusty hammer in there, but sometimes, if your main hammer goes missing, then you go for the rusty one because at least it'll get the job done.
And then like, okay, put the cloth over the thing you're hammering so you don't get the rust on it, that kind of thing,
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it protects the protection, so so yeah, all right. I as always, Murphy, that was a great one. Thank you. And yes, I think that could be useful in other current situations. So forgive and pull back.
Sun Tzu, The Art of War.
Oh geez, you're taking me back to like 1994 right now.
It was on your college bookshelf or whatever. Yeah.
Well, freshman year of high school, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
94, 95. Yeah.
He says, leave your enemy a golden bridge to leave. That's a really good book, actually.
I feel like I need to revisit it. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to revisit that. I actually just put that on my list because I was
not very long.
Yeah, I was listening to I think it was one of my soccer podcasts that I listened to, and the guy was talking about he just came out with a book where he actually took Sun Tzu's Art of War and basically made it for soccer.
Awesome.
He felt that it fit well with coaching in soccer, and he said there were some passages he did not change at all, and then other areas he reinterpreted it for soccer. And I'm like, all right, I got for that on my list too. But it definitely is a book I need to reread.
So the golden bridge is like, you want your enemy to leave, give them a beautiful way to leave. Here's a great way for you to exit. Feel very proud of exiting with this beautiful golden bridge you can walk across to leave and stop fighting. Yeah. So
well, I mean, if that's something they're following, from what I understood from today, this is Thursday night that we're recording this. A partial agreement has come up where they are allowing civilians, like there's a demilitarized zone, for lack of a better term. I forget how it was referred to, but it's a pathway for people to come in and out safely, to bring in relief aid and things like that. So at least there's something happening. But that path is being created, or that bridge is being created. I don't know if it's not quite golden yet, but at least
that's the people. I'm thinking for Putin, he needs to find a way to sort of.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's not quite at that level yet. It's at least getting people back and forth and safely.
It's so hard to know. There's so much rhetoric, very strong feelings, and
yeah, we could have a whole episode just on us talking about that. And
so it's hard to know like what has actually happened. We can't tell for all the massive amounts of media about it. We have no idea what's going on.
Right.
Or I feel I do not.
But yeah, but what we can talk about, and from things that I've been able to kind of drum up is, and then as it relates to AV and to higher ed and to even for the private sector as well. There has been a rise in cyber attacks since the conflict has begun. Forbes had an article out on the 28th that stated that there's been uptick of 800% of attacks from the Russian area. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that they're all targeted at the Ukraine. It could be anywhere, but there has been an uptick in those types of attacks. So much so that at least at Rutgers, and it sounds like there might have been other universities as well. They sent out, we got an email from our chief information security officer, basically just saying just be alert. And part of that was that we do have international students on campus, and some of those international students come from both of these countries. So they are, us being a university makes us a target, but then because we have students that have connections back there, they become even more prime targets, as ways of trying to get into the network and get whatever they can. So it was just basically an alert to us to be more vigilant in regard to that. I know, James, you were saying Stockton hadn't sent out an email regarding that, but I'm sure you guys are doing everything that you need to on a daily basis as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, you always are monitoring security threats daily, because they're always coming in, and rise of this uptake doesn't actually shock me. It just it's another front of a battlefield. I mean, we have air, we have space now, we got sea, land, now we got cyber as well. It's just another the front that we would have to defend and monitor as always. And as long as you have your good security team who's monitoring things, that's a right step in the right direction.
Mhm. Yeah, and they're not exactly sure what the type of attack it's going to, like what they're specifically going to do. They do expect though that it's going to be, let's see, they gave us a list on here: advanced persistent threats, malware, ransomware, DDoS, which Rutgers is familiar with from our years of that, and
Well,
network
let me
attacks.
real quick, for those who don't know what DDoS
Oh,
means.
sorry.
Yep. DDoS is denial of service. So basically they flood your servers with requests so they can't take any other requests. And that's what a DDoS in the simplest form is.
Yeah. I will say we haven't had one in quite a while, but then again, COVID kind of changed the way we manage things. So I think that might have actually been to our benefit to be able to make the network a little bit more robust because of more remote access and things like that. So I think that definitely, if there was a plus side to to COVID, it was for that network structure. A lot of other vulnerabilities, data anomalies, network anomalies, like it's just things that, and unfortunately there's so many ways that it could come through, that it's something that it's a team effort, because there's no one person that could keep an eye on this, so obviously keep your antiviruses up to date, and don't click on any emails that you don't know who it's from. It's like, oh, I'm your long lost cousin from XYZ country, like, hey, help me out. It's like, no.
And as Joe Way always say, change your password.
And change your password, yes. And if your university gives you the option of two-factor authentication, please use said two.
Yes.
Yeah, that. Use the authentication. We're actually rolling it out to the students right now. And
we rolled it out to our students as well.
So I think that's actually happening as we speak, or like in the next week. Like it just timing wise, it happened to all play out about right. So
I had a feeling we rolled it out last semester. I'm not 100% sure, but I know our students are already enrolled in it. I just not sure the time frame when it happened, but it definitely rolled out either last semester or winter break or something. I know they're enrolled though.
Okay. Yeah, I think they're I'd have to go back and dig through my emails to go find it. But
it's a pain, but you can't not have it.
Right,
well,
exactly.
Security is a pain.
Yes.
Necessarily, that's what it is.
If it was easy, that means anyone could break it. So it's,
I mean, by nature, security is supposed to be cumbersome. It's supposed to be make you harder, because really you got think about your threat actors. You got different levels, and that's how your security kind of helps. Is you have those people who walk by, and if it's well, I use an example on the HEPMA conference during the security channel is let's take your front door to your house. If your house did not have a front door, it would be very convenient for you to walk in and out, but anyone else could walk in and out. So let's take a little step of inconvenient and put a front door. Now you're going to weed out those people who just don't want to bother opening a door. They're just going to walk by, not come in. But now you have to open your door. Inconvenient. But again, that's still not fully secure because anyone can open your door. So now we throw a lock on there. You're even more inconvenient because you can now got to get the keys out of your pocket to unlock your door. But most people are not going to try to pick your lock. You weed out more people. But then the people who are more determined, lock picking, all that stuff. So now you throw an alarm system in. Again, you more inconvenient for you because you got to disarm the alarm after you get your keys out. But again, it's weeding out those threat factors. If someone really, really wants to get into your house, no matter how secure you make it, they're going to get in. But all you're doing is weeding out those people who might be on the fence and go, hey, there's no door. I'm going to go enter. And then there's people who's like, oh, there's a door here, but hey, it's not locked. I'm going to try it. It's not locked. I'm going to get in. It's just adding those layers of security like an onion. You just keep adding and adding and adding.
And that's actually, it's interesting you bring it up that way. There has been in my area, there's been an uptick in car theft. And it's not for any other reason because that it's cold and people have been leaving their fobs in their cars while the car is running. And that's what they're looking for. These car thieves are looking for the cars that are unlocked and running because they're not breaking into a car that if they're doing anything, it's they're checking a handle to see if it's unlocked. And then maybe they'll steal some stuff from in your car. But if it's locked, they're pulling the handle, moving on, so.
Yeah, it reminds me of a story because I know like the Midwest area states, they put out a lot of warnings about not warming up your car, all that stuff. I read this article where I think it was Colorado, where a guy had his car warming up. He was in his house. Someone came and stole his car. So, of course, he filed a police report, all that stuff. Later in that day, they came back with his keys and stole his other car.
Wow.
Yeah. So he had 2 cars stolen.
Oh
yeah. So
I heard a story through the grapevine that a food delivery person was dropping off a food delivery, left their car running, and in the 2 minutes for drop off and comeback, it was gone. The car was gone.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's all it takes. That's all it takes. I mean, obviously, depending on where you are, plays a factor as well. So, and from my understanding that this car was not in the best places where he probably should. I think if I remember correctly, that the delivery person was warned to not do that. But so
was it Seinfeld trying to get rid of the smelly car? You know that episode, right?
I think I've seen that one before. Yeah.
That's
and then well, then Mythbusters also said they also tried to break the myth about is a car ever too smelly to be sold.
Oh,
so yeah, they sealed up a car with a couple of pigs and let it sit for, I think it was like 3 months or something like that. And
it's
then
everything has a scrap value to a point. Like, think about it. There's a lot of value on the car. Like, just take your Cadillac converter alone. That is worth a lot of money. And there's an uptake in theft right now of people going around and chopping off Cadillac converters of cars.
We were afraid of that. We were afraid of that. So we went and for our fully owned cars and got comprehensive insurance. No one came and stole our catalytic converters. However, our neighbor over there, who had a rather cluttered backyard, moved out, and the disturbance in the forts caused all the rats that lived over there to come over and eat our car.
Oh,
The BMW, not the old Honda, which would have been cheap.
Of course.
However, we had comprehensive, so it was totally covered.
There you go.
For the catalytic converter, because we were worried about that. It wasn't very expensive, so we're like,
I
yeah.
was gonna say that's an ad. That's an ad for farmers right there. You know, it's like, yeah, we covered that.
Yeah.
You're covered under rat chewing.
Yeah, so it just took a really long time right before Christmas, so that was a hassle. I'm not I don't know. I think so. The people that moved in now have cleaned out a lot. I think all the rats are gone. I think they're even putting in AstroTurf, which is, I don't have to look at it, so it's
interesting choice.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, but the rats are not going to be interested in AstroTurf. So
No, and that's a management nightmare too, keeping that turf clean, and I wouldn't want that on my yard.
I don't know.
Now for a soccer field, I would like it. But.
Well, yeah. But coming back around to security, before we get too far off. So as much as there's being attacks on the private sector and as on higher ed and the like, and whoever is happening, from the other side, from the Ukrainian side, there are actually cyber attacks as well. There is a guerrilla group out there that is specifically targeting the Russians. So they're not only are the Russians divvying it out, but they're taking some back from the Ukraine as well. So so the hacking attacks are actually let's see, where was it? Ukraine's defense ministry asked the group led by cybersecurity expert to use its cyber capabilities to disrupt railways and electrical grids and stanch the flow of weapons to and from Russia. So I feel like that was was that like a Mission Impossible thing? I feel like that's like a movie.
Never watched this. Never got into that series.
Oh yeah. See, I'm usually about a movie behind, so I don't go to the theater to watch it though. Like I like it just enough that if it's on, I'll watch it. Like, but I'm not I'm gonna jump into the theater and go see it kind of fan. So
wait, you still have cable?
Yes, I do. Because they throw it in as part of my internet. So it's like, well, I don't have to go out and spend $60 a month for like YouTube TV or something like that. So I haven't quite figured out the right combination to cut the cord. I think I'm going to be able to cut back on one box though. I could get down to the one box in the living room, because the one up in the bedroom we so rarely use at this point. And I don't even have one down here in the basement. Verizon actually gave me a streaming box for down here that runs just apps. So I guess eventually when I give up my my Verizon, I can still keep the box.
Get a video switcher and route it around the house. There you go. AV over IP.
There it is. Yep. That's it. Oh, and we'll come back to that. I have my own story about that. Sorry, Murphy. Murphy, you were saying though about
I forgot.
Okay. So they're trying. Oh, that's what we're talking about, the movies and things. But yeah, it's the group apparently has about 1,000 Ukrainian and foreign volunteers. So they've boosted their numbers to be able to counteract and to provide the attacks not only on the physical front but also the digital front as well. So
I don't know about the state of the Ukrainian currency, but the ruble has plummeted in value because nobody wants it, because they're like, we don't like you anymore, Russia. Okay, fine.
Yeah, we're basically cutting ties with them. So
that's
not just
everything. Everything has been being cut off to them. Yeah, Netflix. Who else? I saw Netflix. I saw
international cat shows. The cat shows will not allow Russian cats.
Wow.
I did hear today that the city of Newark has implemented a ban on Lukoil, the gas station, because they are a subsidiary, the corporate Lukoil every gas station is independently owned, but the corporate Lukoil is a subsidiary of a Russian conglomerate. So, who has direct ties to like Putin and things like that. So, they have instituted. So the council in Newark, New Jersey, has elected to remove their business licenses until
that'll hurt
otherwise.
Putin like crazy. Okay, fine, but the cats can't be shown. That's a problem, and all these places are just shut off. Lukoil. Okay, these people we don't know their status. We don't know
Right.
what they think about the war. Maybe they've said so, but I certainly haven't looked it up. But we do know that they're cut off now. And when you cut off people from money, they have to scramble. When your rubles suddenly plummet, I actually lived through, I went there. I've mentioned it before. I went to Russia during the moment right after the Soviet Union fell. And this was also a time of enormous inflation. So if my dollar, I used to be able to go to the store and buy down to the Dollar Tree, buy myself a loaf of bread and for $1. Well, it's $1.25 right now because the Dollar Tree is $1.25 tree. But when it's suddenly it's $40 now. Oh, 116. Oh, 380. And we're talking weeks between that. That happened in Russia. And so they're like, hey, I'm going to go crime. I can do this. I'm going to crime. Even people that might have been not inclined to do so. That's the only way. Now it's been pretty fast. Those who've already had the skills, but this is a financial reality that they do not have any way of getting money legally. So that's very and so Putin himself and his supporters might be doing it, but because I guess they need funds too. Bitcoin is a thing, but even people who have no support for Putin at all, who feel inclined, there's lots and lots of motivation. So I don't think it'll stay at 800%. I think it'll grow significantly.
Oh
yeah.
So change your password.
Yeah,
change your password.
I also, as breaking news, as I actually went over to Twitter real quick, apparently Ukrainian officials are reporting that a fire at a nuclear power plant has started because of the attacks. So yeah, hey Russia, how about don't do that? Like, let's not blow up the nuclear reactor. And I'm actually I'm quoting actually BC on that one. he goes, hey Russia, can y'all refrain from shelling nuclear reactors? Just a thought. I know strategically, like, yes, you want to take out the power plants to cripple a nation, but let's not. Like, that'd be great. But so a surprise thing that has come up from this, and actually I didn't fully understand it. I think it was Joe Way tweeted that apparently cryptocurrency is on the rise in Ukraine right now.
Of course it is. The only currency they can get.
Yeah, and I was kind of hoping he was going to be here for that because I wanted to ask him about that. Let me see if I can get more information on that. Let's see, where did that tweet come? Oh, Joe Way hanging out with Kaleo. Joe Way with Candy. I'll find it. I'm gonna find it somewhere in here. I don't know. All right, maybe I won't find it. All right. Well, yeah, it was. I thought it was somewhere in here that was what was. It was on the rise there. but yeah, it was, but I'm actually, yeah, I'm surprised, but not surprised at the same time. Like you said, Murphy, like if they're having such a, if the, and I'm sure in Russia, it's also probably booming as well. Cause if their actual currency is on the crash, that's a way of circumventing the system, you know?
Also, their banks aren't even open, so they can't get money.
Well, yeah, it's not even that their banks are closed. What they also did, we not just us, but they got pulled out of
Swift.
the Swiss. Yeah. So they can't even trade foreign on the foreign exchange and all
Mhm.
foreign banks. So they basically is just all internal now. Their money is not being used anywhere else.
Yeah.
So,
So, I mean, and that's always the
And
first
nobody's
step. The
selling them
sanction.
anything.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yep. They can't spend their money and they can't, at least outside of their country, and they cannot, get money in. So that's what the sanctions are designed to do. Like that's how, I guess you say that's the new warfare, is the financial cutoffs. And yes, I heard Putin has lots of Bitcoin. I've heard that's what he's been investing in. So I heard something like to that effect.
And
So
that's the thing is, a way I look at this is Putin is not an idiot. So he probably knew these sanctions would come. That's probably why he had probably other means so he can still, lead his army and do what he's doing with all these coming on him. So it's an unfortunate new world we live in. And like I said, we're all different
this
battlefronts
is
now.
a very old story. This is a very, very old story. This has to do with supplies of things going around over the world. And that's going to affect, yeah, sure. There's like, oh, Bitcoin and cybersecurity. Yeah, those are important and those are they affect our lives for sure. But there's like some reality of stuff that needs to move around over the world. They cut things off. Like um, there's a fertilizer shortage, and Russia is one of the big places where you get fertilizer. Russia and Ukraine are a good place, a place where you get potash. Well, that's going to have effect next year if farmers can't actually fertilize their soil. The yields are going to be less, and that's an issue.
It is.
People need to eat, and they need to eat
yes.
at a specific time, and it's a short amount of time. So if there's got to be enough, and it's got to be able to get around, and so this is affecting the next several years. And the fact that you can do these things and governments can cut off whoever they decide. There was something similar that happened to entities in Canada a few weeks ago as well, that caused banks to have a lot of lost a lot of trust. So people are pulling money out of banks. So that means this system, this financial system that has been built up, that has been relied upon by the international community, people all over the world, is now losing trust. So the ability to borrow and move money around is going to get more expensive, if not impossible. It is impossible for Russia right now. So I'm like, ooh, this is going to have a lot of effects. Things that are moving around are stopped in weird ways, and especially currency, even just dollar to dollar between people. Inflation, we talked about
Mhm.
that 2 weeks ago, James,
Yep.
is going to go up even more.
Oh yeah, they
This is, yeah.
they already looked at it. They think that the month of February, which is supposed to come out in the next couple of days, is going to be higher than January was.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yes.
inflation. So
Yeah. So,
And this is the life of the AV life, as we say.
I mean,
Um,
these are real things. So, yeah, I'm stocking up a little bit because
mhm.
everything today is on sale. It's at least, I don't know, 10% less than it will be next month. So I
yeah.
bought up a bunch of rice over there and some rice and beans just to have.
Well,
Mhm.
you know what's bad about that though?
Hmm.
That is actually called inflation psychology. And what that is you're sitting here and going, all right, this is going to go up in price. So I am going to buy it now, which actually drives up price. as well. So because normally when you get into a inflation psychology, that's what you're doing. You're almost driving up inflation as well. Because when you're not in that inflation psychology, what it is you will go, well, let's even take a loaf of bread. You'll go like, all right, it's $10 for a loaf of bread. I am not paying $10 for a loaf of bread. I'm going to look elsewhere, or I'm going to move to another product, which then brings costs down. But because we're entering the inflation psychology, and we kind of have money because the government gave out free money, using those air quotes, and people really couldn't get out to do things, so they're sitting on their money. They have money to spend, and they're like, all right, well, this is going to go up next month. Now I'm going to buy more, and I'm going to buy it, which actually drives up inflation as well. So we're almost causing our own inflation rate problem.
That doesn't make sense to me, James.
Well, you're driving demand. So
yeah, you're driving supply and demand. So that is driving up price.
Yes. But so you could say that contributes potentially, that could be a contributor to the inflation that's going on. But if I look broader, 360 degrees, I feel that there are a significant number of other reasons that inflation is going up, not just.
Oh, yeah.
No. That's not the sole reason. It's just another avenue that's adding to the already a problem. Yeah. No, it's definitely not the sole and only reason. It's just a additional, putting that feather on top of the pile that's already getting bigger.
Yeah.
I'm wondering when gas is going to get up to $7 a gallon here. It's at
I think
$5.71 right now.
Ooh. I was gonna say I drove by 369 today, I think is what I drove by. And I had a family member in Tom's River that was at 396, I think I saw.
It's jumped it's 40 cents in a week and a half.
Yeah. Yep. Jersey, it's bad. Jersey's actually considering self-service gas to save on gas prices. I know, that's huge. That's like there's legislation that's been
I think that's a front, because they've been talking about changing that policy in New Jersey for years now. And every time the gas gets high, they'll be like, oh, if we don't pump our own gas, like if you pump your own gas, it'll be cheaper. And again, I just think it's something they want, and they're using that as the carrot to put in front of the people.
Wow.
And we have a person joining us.
Yes, we are having a late arrival of a guest to the AV Life as
breaking news,
as he's connecting.
A new arrival.
Yes, speaking of breaking news, there he is. Oh, and there he goes. Fade in and fade out.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. I hear you now. Yes.
I'll figure this out eventually.
Ladies and gentlemen, Frank Padikkala has joined us here on the AV Life. How are you doing, Frank?
Hey, thanks for being on so late. I had no idea it was still running.
Oh no, we were getting towards the end, but you know what? That's why I still had you come on. We've kind of already started talking a little bit about the whole cybersecurity angle with the Ukraine, and we were actually on to the rise of inflation because of said conflict as well. But I was going to ask you on as far as the security standpoint. We'll backtrack real quick, because I know Murphy's going to have to go in a few minutes too. So, so what's been your take on the security cyber type of side of things because of the conflict that's been happening? Have you seen anything, read anything in regard to that? I've seen a couple articles regarding, cyber attacks are on the rise, about 800% from that side of the world. People are just basically, the general consensus is basically keep up with what we have been doing.
Yeah, and I think it's obviously it's a very difficult time, and there's no good way to emphasize the importance of cybersecurity, right? Unfortunately, it's this has gone past cybersecurity. It's a cyber warfare, but that is the ultimate, it's weaponized, and that's what we have. And I think when you have threat actors that are nation states, that are large groups of people, and they have all kinds of agendas and goals in place, this is what happens, right? And I think as people who are on the tech side of things, it's important for us to understand that, again, a lot of our challenges are nothing compared to what's going on right now. So, I feel for everything, but at the same time, there's the lesson that cybersecurity is going to be a part of our conversation for a long time to come. It's not something that's one and done. It's ongoing. And I would say the biggest thing that we can learn is keep updating ourselves, keep current in terms of our technologies. And audiovisual systems right now are overlapping with everything. It's not, there's no more existing on an island. It's important for us to follow standards. I mean, it's like, we've been having a lot of conversations even at Audinate, and one of the things that we've been telling our customers and everything is that it's not about a particular thing over IP or AV, or it's all a large blanket right now, a technology blanket that encompasses so many different things. So being a part of the conversation, understanding where you stand, and trying to update your skills is very critical. I mean, and it's if anyone who's ever been to any cybersecurity class, cyber warfare has always been something that was talked about. Now we're just seeing it, and it's been happening. We just never got, a lot of things never got the press coverage that it's getting today, right? So it's happening every single day.
And the interesting you say that, because the best thing I can compare to this to was when the Gulf War happened back in the 90s. That was the first time you saw war live on TV. Like there was, World War II and things. You see the old footage and things like that, but no, like this was like the biggest war that you were able to see on TV live, that it was happening in that moment. And now, come 30 years later, now we're seeing this whole other side of it, like you're saying.
True.
Now
True.
we've moved on to
there is
cyber.
there is a common component, though, right? Information is truly a very important resource. Whether you know it or not, it's Gulf War or not, whatever be the the war that's happening, all unfortunate, terrible things in world history, but information is critical, and there's an information war at play, and it's always been at play. It's just that the media that's used for it now is the internet and social media and cybersecurity and so on.
Yeah, and it moves even faster than what TV was doing for us back then. So
absolutely.
And I could say the same thing. Like, since we're already down the road of war, 9/11 was the same thing. Like I remember being in the newspaper office at my university, that I was trying to get to CNN.com and I couldn't get there because the traffic, like the amount of people that were trying to do the same thing I was unheard of at that moment.
True.
People knew they could go there, but they couldn't get there to get the news. They had to go back to TV and get everything from TV. So it was actually an interesting, thinking back on it, 20 plus years at this point, and thinking about that is just incredible, just from that standpoint. And actually, one of the articles I did find in preparation for tonight, there is a Ukrainian cyber group that is attacking Russian electrical stations and transportation stations to try to slow down the transportation of the weapons from Russia to the Ukraine. So that cyber war is currently ongoing. And in this case, it's by volunteers from the Ukraine. It's not even, it's headed up by the Ukrainian defense, but by all volunteers, and for globally, not even just in the Ukraine. So that's becoming a true global
and that's
effort.
how cybersecurity works, right? I mean, it's like, it's threat actors, there's strength in numbers, there's a lot of misconceptions that we need to target, and it's great that, as a podcast and as an information resource that we're talking about it, because it's about us understanding that hack or cybersecurity is not the glorified, people who type at 300 words per minute on a computer with 16 monitors. That's not your hacker. It's It can be groups, it can be hordes of people, it can be entire organizations, it can be volunteers. It comes in all shapes and sizes, right? And when you like to take something and look at it from a business perspective, good hygiene, good cybersecurity hygiene is important. And not saying that cybersecurity hygiene could have prevented the things that are happening right now or any of that, but we're just trying to draw our, it's a very difficult topic to talk about, and I find it always there's nothing we can say that's truly potent enough or encompass what's happening in these situations. The best we can do is, protect professionals. Yeah, we saw technology at play here, and being used in the absolute worst possible way.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's very well said, Frank. Yeah.
Frank always have an elegant way of talking.
Yes.
I do have to step away. I'm so glad to see you, Frank.
Murphy, you too. I'm so glad to see you. It's been a while since we were on a call together.
Yeah.
We should catch up.
But I have to step away. I gotta go handle my own personal warfare, my martial arts. Okay.
Go get him, Murphy. So it's but you said it right. You said it, Frank. It's an ongoing discussion, and we even said, I think we actually last time you were on the podcast with us, we said the same thing, is that we were going to have this conversation again, and within a year we're having this conversation again. True. Unfortunately, there's the other side of this conversation that came along with it, but it is the ongoing discussion. And it's interesting because actually I was just having a conversation with one of my coworkers today. We were looking at products for the future for our next batch of refreshes. And we look at network capable equipment, obviously, at this point, because if we can't reach out and touch it to be able to do what we need to it without going to a classroom, like we want to be able to do it over the network, we don't want the product, is really what it comes down to. So that's more points of entry. There's more possible points of failure. And it's something we need to be aware of, and we do our parts of, random passwords, things like that, and everything sits behind the firewall of Rutgers. So we rely on other folks to handle that part of it, but we do our part on our side. But it's a real decision that becomes part of, it's not just what are the specs for resolution and refresh rates and stuff like that. It's, of course, okay, is it network accessible? What are those network security options that are available through it as well? So, it's become more than that. So that's, like you said, the blending of the AV and the IT. It's we're converging, as we said during that podcast.
Sure.
So yeah, a very serious topic this week compared to our cilantro ice cream and celebrity sausage that we talked about last week. Yeah. So how are you doing otherwise, Frank? Everything good?
Everything is good.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
And I like to come on the AV Life every now and then, and it's always great to be here. And I thought 9:30. I don't know. I'll just click through and see if I can make it. I'm glad to have caught up with everyone. It's good.
Yeah, well, you're always welcome here, Frank. Like
Thank you.
Like James said, you speak so elegantly about security and everything like that.
Thank you so much. It's the best we can do is share information and present it in a way that people understand. And I think the thing that we need to see is cybersecurity. It traverses distance and it traverses nations, and the way it operates is a little different. So to take that into an AV space, just building an air gap system truly means it doesn't mean much. There's no air gap anymore because you're connected to something at some point. And there's collaboration. Our tools are being utilized by different people, different departments. It's a network, and the best practice is to truly abide by the rules of the land. So if IT is our land, following their rules is the best way to do it. There's no better way to put it.
Yeah, well there really isn't. Yeah, well said, Frank. So, and speaking of sharing, so as you're listening to this episode, if you think that there's something that we said here today is potent to or pertinent to somebody else, please share our podcast on all your favorite podcast servers, higheredav.com, the AV Life Pod on Twitter, and also our YouTube channel, and look for the Blue Lightning Bolt, because apparently I think there's another AV Life out there. So don't go for them. The Blue Lightning Bolt. That's what you want. So like and subscribe, and yeah, exactly. Yeah, that way. This one. This. But if you have to be watching the YouTube video to see this, so if you're seeing, and what you may have noticed over the last couple of weeks, as I've been doing the article piece for the website, I've been taking that picture that they call it like the spotlight picture or whatever it is for the website. That picture has now become the cover art for the video on YouTube. So if you don't remember what the article name, what the episode name was, but you remember the picture, go find the picture. But it's only for like the last 4 weeks. So I haven't gone back and fixed all the other ones yet. So that's going to be a little bit of a longer project. But going forward, that's what it's going to be like. So so Frank, I mean, thank you for jumping in here at the last minute. We're very grateful for your information, and I think you wrapped up the entire 45 plus minutes that we were on here in 5. So it's you came in like Mariano Rivera, and you closed out for us. So thank you for that.
Closer, all right.
You are the closer. You closed it out for us.
Oh, I love it. I am so humble. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Really I am wearing my Yankee gear here today, so I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful for baseball at some point this summer. So we'll see.
Oh my god. Yep.
Yeah, that's a whole nother.
That's another one.
That's a whole nother thing. That's a whole nother conflict that needs to get resolved.
Yeah, I was writing. One of my friends was telling me, like, maybe cut down on these huge events. Let's do like one life-changing historical thing a year, not like 15, 20 of them. Yeah, the history books for this decade, this year is going to be just going to. They're going to crazy.
They're gonna. So it's not gonna be 20th century history or 21st century history.
Oh, just 2020 to 2022. Yeah. It's 2 years. Oh my god.
There's gonna be somebody in about 5 years that's gonna get their doctorate, and that's what they're gonna be the doctor of. They're gonna get. It's gonna be like a master's of arts, a doctorate of arts
for this period.
For this period, for this 2 weeks, and like its impact on society. So yes, I'm giving somebody's doctorate thesis right now. So if you're listening. In 5 years, I want credit for that. I want to be listed in a book somewhere. So I'm just saying that right now. It's my idea. It's recorded. It's trademarked. I give permission to whoever wants to use it, but I just want credit. So
there you go.
But anyway, so Frank, thank you. James, thank you as always. And thank you to all of our listeners out there. And check us out everywhere, as I was saying. And until our next adventure.